This is Orlando Sentinel Now.
Hello, it's Friday, December 10th. Rich Pope here with Gray Rohr and Amy Drew Thompson. Today we have good topics to finish off the week. We're going to find out about Governor DeSantis' budget recommendations. Also, Amy Drew Thompson, she's going to talk cookies with us. We're going to find out about how to win that cookie bake-off. And then also, we're going to stick in the holiday realm. We're going to look at Orlando's signature star decoration over Orange Avenue. We'll find out more about that. But we're going to start here with Gray Rohr. So yesterday, Governor DeSantis laid out his recommendations for the budget for the following year. Look like teachers actually will get a bump. Also, law enforcement. Tell us about it.
Yeah, there's basically about $100 billion plan. It was $101 billion the current year. That's what he's laying out there.
We promised we would do these things. When I became governor, we promised we'd tackle environment. We promised we'd be support for education. We promised for infrastructure. We promised to support law enforcement and so many other things. And we're delivering time and time again.
It's pretty much helped by a bunch of federal money from the stimulus that's sort of left over that was passed to help states deal with the pandemic, about $3.5 billion. But yeah, he's putting that into stuff he did for the current year, bonuses for teachers, for law enforcement, that sort of thing. But there's also raises, which he's been trying to do for teachers, trying to get everyone to a minimum $47,500 salary for teachers. Some school districts are there, not all of them. So he's trying to get everybody at least to that minimum bar. And then, the states had sort of chronic issues with recruiting and retaining their state police force, whether it's highway patrolmen or, in FDLE and prison guards especially. And so there's some raises for them. I think it's 20% for new hires and 25% for existing employees for state law enforcement. And again, this is all a suggestion really to lawmakers for next year's budget when they come back to convene the session in January.
Is there any reason why they wouldn't go for this? For the most part, the state is run by the Republican legislature. Anything that most likely could get nixed on this?
You never really know when the legislature gets involved, and they can have their own ideas about what to do with some of this money. But to the extent that, we do have it and the economy has rebounded, then, he got most of pretty much everything he wanted this last go around, and it's election year. Chances are they'll probably acquiesce. They might, tinker on the margins about exactly how it all gets doled out. But I think in the main, they'll probably back him on some of the major requests that he have.
Right. Tell me about how this compares to last year's budget as far as recommendations that he put through last year.
The overall budget for the current year is about 101.7 or 8, and then so this one would be 99.7 billion. Both these budgets are somewhat unique because there was just so much federal money in the budget that passed from the from Congress, from the stimulus, and so we have a little bit left over by design. Congress sort of designed it that way so it would have a 2-year run. So it's somewhat similar. It's just trying to go beyond just bonuses and have some actual salary raises for police officers and teachers and so forth.
Yeah, interesting on this one. Universities look like they actually took a cut here in the state.
Well, under his recommendation, yes, some of that is related to buildings and projects that either want to get delayed or he sort of set aside some money to cope with any sort of cost increases for ongoing building projects due to inflation. And so, that's sort of like a question mark out there about how the legislature will handle budgeting for that sort of thing.
All right. Well, there you go. You can go to orlandosentinel.com right now and read about the recommendations for Governor DeSantis for next year's budget. Appreciate that, Gray. All right, moving forward here to Amy Drew Thompson. So, Amy Drew, you got to love this. It's the holiday time, and that means Christmas cookies. And you actually talked to some notable Orlando bakers about how to essentially go for the win whenever you're in a cookie swap.
Yeah, well, for sure. But I mean, really, it's just who doesn't love cookies, right? So if you happen to be participating in a cookie exchange, which is super, super popular this time of year, why not bring a new recipe? And hey, you could do worse than a recipe from any of the bakers that we featured in this piece.
Okay, so tell us about some of these. I saw one of them, or one of the bakers actually alluded to the fact that it was a takeoff of fruitcake. I don't know about that one.
You see, and that one is the one that's most appealing to me because it goes in my coffee, biscotti. That's the one that I'm always going to go for. Edward Hawkneal from Edward's Gourmet Creations and Fine Coffees, not surprisingly, brought to the table a biscotti that was inspired by a cookie that his grandmother used to make for him when he was a kid. And that cookie had fruit and nuts, and it was really hearty. And he brought all of that color and chew to the biscotti, and I love the idea personally. So,
Yeah, I kid. I'm sure it's awesome. As far as like their recommendations, obviously they do this all the time. Like, are there any like pro tips that they have for like someone that's doing this?
we didn't do tips so much in this article, but the recipes were very straightforward and simple. Edwards has the most ingredients, and you're going to, of course, have to bake those cookies twice because they're biscotti. But Trina from 7 Bites offered up a gorgeous red velvet crinkle. And there's some killer techniques on how you roll the cookie in sugar, and it gives it this sort of cracked snow look on the surface, and it's got that crunch on the outside, but real chewy in the middle. And then, of course, Michelle, maker of Sweet Things, brought to the table a ginger snap, but I mean, it doesn't get more classic holiday smells and flavors than that. But not only is it a great cookie, you can pulse those up in the food processor and make them into the base for a pumpkin cheesecake bar or pies or different things like that. So at the beginning of the season, she makes trays and trays of those. Some of them she eats as cookies, some of them she sells as cookies, some of them go as a topping or a crumble or a crust. So very versatile and lots of holiday flavor.
That sounds awesome. I thought this was really cool, and I think gives us all a little bit of optimism. One of the bakers actually said at one point she couldn't even bake, and now she's one of Orlando's notables.
Isn't that so funny? Yeah, she said her first cookie exchange was a total disaster. She cooked with 4 or 5 other friends, and they were having so much fun, she forgot to put flour in her cookies. And literally baked them with no flour. So needless to say, hers were not the most popular at the exchange, but any of these, if you bake them, you're going to have a win on your hands.
So they're actually, you can go get the recipe right now online, right?
All 3 recipes are available online and in the paper. Clip it if you don't have time to do it this year. Maybe you do it next year. I have a couple of recipes that I've had in my book for years, and one day I'll get to them.
That's pretty cool. And of course, if you can't bake them, you can always go see these individuals and buy them, I'm sure.
You sure can.
All right, thanks, Amy Drew. All right, we're going to move forward, and actually, we're going to stick around in the holiday realm, but we're going to take a look at Orlando's signature star that hangs over Orange Avenue and a little bit of the backstory on it. Go ahead and take a look. Well, we are full in on the countdown to Christmas. Figure we should go out and do some light looking. And this time around, we're going to go take a look at Orlando's star attraction when it comes to decoration, the large star that hangs over Orange Avenue. The history of the star goes back nearly 70 years ago when 2 heavyweight department stores on Orange Avenue set aside their differences for the Christmas season.
Dixon and Ives and Ivy's, they dominated the corners of Orange Avenue on Orange and Central. In December of 1955, the 2 stores put their rivalry away, so to speak, in the spirit of the holidays to put up what we know now as our Christmas star.
The idea was the brainchild of the owner of Dixon and Ives, Wilson Reed. And that first version was a 7-foot star with over 600 lights suspended between the 2 buildings by multiple strands.
It actually got the nickname the Christmas Spider because of that.
The star certainly was a welcome sight and got rave reviews by what would be the most reputable news organization at that time.
The star was even described by the Orlando Sentinel as one of the most impressive decorations in Central Florida.
Unfortunately, as welcome of sight as the star was, eventually it would go dark and out of sight, mainly due to the changing retail landscape that moved much of the region's shopping district from downtown.
It's not really known how many years the Christmas star was or wasn't put up. Downtown really hit a period of decline in the 1960s and 70s.
For the most part, it appeared the star's tradition had become nothing more than a memory. Thankfully, that memory is what fueled a longtime Orlando resident into action in the early 80s.
A citizen by the name of Jack Kazantzis wrote to the Orlando Sentinel kind of saying, hey, we should do this again. We should get the star back.
Kazantzis was not just all talk either. That letter was the start of a campaign that raised $13,000 alongside with some other downtown merchants to save the star. And a new version that was bigger and brighter was illuminated over Orange Avenue once again in 1984.
So it was 10 feet by 10 feet and 600 pounds.
600 pounds? Are you sure Jack's last name wasn't Griswold?
A little bit bigger than the other one, and tests had to be done to make sure that the weight of the star would actually be able to stay up between the 2 buildings.
It would appear the rally to save the star would be enough to save it for Orlando tradition for years to come. But the saga doesn't end there. After 14 years of illuminating over Orange Avenue for the holidays, by 1998 the star would lose its luster. You see, as any decoration here in Florida would, it was getting worn out.
By the 90s, Mayor Glenda Hood kind of wanted to not put it up anymore, but Jack DeSantis again was like, nope, we have to do this, and helped raise the money.
And once again he would succeed, and the star would stay lit and continue to get upgrades over the years. In 2005, the yellow plexiglass over the star would get a revised, updated design. And in 2010, the star would get restrung with over 4,000 LED lights. Unfortunately, Kazantzis, who became a fixture in his elf hat, playing Christmas music and handing out coffee and bagels for OUC crews on the days that they would hang the star, did not get to see the last variation of that. You see, in August 2010, he passed away.
And 2010 was also the year that the city issued a proclamation naming it the Jack DeSantis Christmas Star.
And now his legacy of saving the holiday tradition lives on. And since 2018, even brighter after the star got one more upgrade with the color-changing lights that are currently on the star shining brightly over Orange Avenue this holiday season.
Ever since then, it's still up every single year, and it's a nice little reminder that the actions of one person can really do a lot to brighten the lives of everyone else.
Well said, and what a great story. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you all. I'm Rich Pope, and this has been a Greetings from Orange Avenue. All right, well, there's an interesting one for you. We're going to go ahead and call it quits here for today. Appreciate you being with us. Want to point out, become a subscriber. Go to orlandosentinel.com/subscribe and support our work. We always do appreciate that. But for us, we're going to call it a weekend. Until next time, I'm Rich, Gray, and Amy Drew. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Watch Orlando Sentinel Now live every weekday at noon on our Facebook page and on orlandosentinel.com.